A 1-year-old girl has died after a distracted driver forgot to take her out of the daycare center van as temperatures hit close to 100 degrees Fahrenheit in Omaha, Nebraska. This happened on Monday. Ramia Worthington, 1 year of age, was rushed to hospital where tragically she was pronounced dead after she was left in the daycare center van, forgotten, left behind by the driver, 62-year-old Ryan Williams, and it's believed that she was left in the van alone in the heat, windows rolled up, no water, from around 8 a.m. to perhaps close to 3 p.m. So 5, 6, 7 hours, perhaps more, left alone. How did this travesty occur? Well, Ramia Worthington was picked up by the daycare center van driver at 8 a.m. Monday morning, taken to the daycare center, which is called Kids of the Future Childcare in Omaha, Nebraska. It's currently temporarily closed, I believe, following this tragedy. So upon arrival at the daycare center, Ryan Williams, the 62-year-old driver, did what he had to do to transport the children from the van through to the daycare center, asked them to leave, whatever the process is. Apparently, one boy didn't want to leave the van. That took Ryan's attention, the driver's attention. That boy was so problematic, and I don't wish to blame that boy in any sense, but that boy apparently, allegedly, was problematic such that Ryan had to have the assistance of another staff member to finally remove that boy, at which point Ryan thought the van was empty. Ryan had said that normally, as a matter of course, he does a sweep of the van just to check. Maybe that's true, maybe that isn't true. Maybe he made that up just to cover his rear end. But maybe it is true, we don't know. But on this fateful day, Monday, Ryan Williams, the 62-year-old daycare center driver, failed to do a final sweep of the van to double check that all of the children had entered the daycare center. And with that, 1-year-old Ramia Worthington was left in the van alone, windows rolled up, no water, just alone, a 1-year-old, in the increasing heat that occurs when you're in a sunny place, Omaha, Nebraska, the heat reaching close to 100 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm wondering if it was much higher within the vehicle. I don't know. We're told that Ramia was discovered close to 3 p.m. She was rushed to hospital. Tragically, she was pronounced dead at the hospital. Her internal body temperature was 109 degrees Fahrenheit, 42.8 degrees Celsius, which is considered to be a medical emergency. Tragically, she wasn't able to be saved by the paramedics, the nurses, the doctors. Ramia was the youngest of 6 kids. We're told that she loved to eat, she loved to dance, she was always smiling. A lovely girl, very much a daddy's girl. Full condolences to the family of Ramia Worthington. 5 siblings, all older. She leaves behind her devastated mother, her devastated father, aunties and uncles as well. So there are protests that have been occurring outside of the daycare center calling for justice for Ramia. Questions as to how this could have happened. How could anyone forget a child in a van, in a car? Perhaps especially when the people involved are employees of a daycare center. They're literally paid to look after the children, and they did not do that. How on earth could this have happened? Again, the 62-year-old daycare center driver, Ryan Williams, claims that typically he does a final sweep of the van, but for one reason or another, he claims because he was distracted by the one boy that didn't want to leave the van, he was distracted and simply forgot, subject to human error. So again, he's facing a charge of child negligence resulting in death, which carries up to 4 years in prison. And I'm going to provide a little bit of a commentary at this point, and you may not like my thoughts on this subject. You may not. So if you do, if you don't, feel free to write comments in the comment section. I'm not going to delete any unless they're outrageously disrespectful. So you're more than welcome to disagree with me and try to show me what it is that I'm missing if you do disagree with me. So I actually am going to say that, of course, naturally, I understand the anger of the family and friends. Obviously, this is a tragedy. This shouldn't have happened. And I would say that clearly, in my opinion, negligence is at play. The daycare center driver, Ryan Williams, 62 years of age, should have completed his full duties, his full responsibilities. He should have done that final sweep of the van, double checked that all of the children were off of the van safely and into the daycare center where they're to be looked after by other daycare center staff, I presume. He should have done that. He did not do that. I would say there's a very strong argument that he's negligent. With that, I think that justice does need to be served. He does need to face punishment. He does need to face consequences for his negligence. I'm going to add that the charged child negligence resulting in death, in my opinion, offers a disturbingly low maximum sentence, up to 4 years in prison. That doesn't seem enough to me as a general comment in a general situation. Now, however, I'm going to start saying something which some may find offensive or inappropriate or such. You may disagree. I actually feel a great deal, well, maybe not a great deal, a good amount. I feel a good amount of empathy, sympathy towards the daycare centre van driver, Ryan Williams. I feel sympathy for him. Of course, we don't know the full details, so I'm making assumptions. And my assumption is this is a good man. He's 62 years old. At some point in time, people used to retire at that kind of age. You know, we're kind of considered past it, but not anymore. We're now to be worked to the bone until we drop, pretty much. We don't know his medical condition. We don't know his mental acuity. I know that I become more forgetful as I get older. I see that with those of a similar age around me. I know that brain fog has been a major discussion worldwide for the last couple of years. Never used to be discussed, but we hear the term brain fog quite a lot. Maybe it's died down over the last few months, but we're told that there's an epidemic or such of people being forgetful, struggling to process simple concepts, failing to perform simple tasks. That's what we're told. Brain fog affects a lot of people, is what we're told. Perhaps due to long COVID, perhaps due to other things, some of which I'm not allowed to mention in detail. But my point is, this guy, the daycare centre driver, by all accounts, in my assumption, which might well be wrong, he's probably a good man. He's probably a good-hearted man. He seems to have had a healthy, wholesome job helping the local children. He probably isn't paid a fortune to drive the daycare centre van. He probably gets a modest wage from it. It's a fairly low-skilled job. Perhaps he hasn't received any training. Perhaps he hasn't received much or any assistance in the role. He 100%, in my estimation, had no malice. There was no ill intent. He didn't purposefully leave Ramia in the van. The moment that it occurred to him that that could be the situation, he acted upon it. I have no doubt. He's a good man who made a very costly mistake that, sure, he should not have made. He had responsibilities. He failed to live up with those responsibilities. He ought to face consequences for that. But I think we've got to be a little bit fair, a little bit realistic. He was probably doing a shitty job, paid shitty money, with shitty support, handling too many children, and an error happened. Seemingly the daycare centre has some good protocols in place. Ryan claims, the driver claims, that every day he would normally do a final sweep of the van. Well, that seems like a good practice to me. Obviously a practice which ought to be in place and seemingly wasn't in this case, but hey, let me throw a suggestion out there. Perhaps a second staff member should also be responsible for doing a final sweep of the van. Yeah, why not do that? Leaving children in cars seemingly is something that happens. I've been running this true crime channel for give or take 2 years, and I've come across dozens of articles. There's a website that tracks the fatalities of children left in cars annually. It's becoming a higher and higher amount, I believe. I can't remember the name of that website, but there is a website that tracks it. This is something which keeps occurring. It's going to keep occurring. The protocols aren't strong enough at this moment in time. So my suggestion is daycare centres ought to have 2 people responsible for doing a final sweep. If one person forgets to do it, well, you would hope that the second person won't forget to do it. Now, one slightly interesting aspect within this article that's mentioned is that the daycare centre has an app which reports on the activities throughout the day that the children are performed in. Oh, look, it's 10 a.m. Young Johnny's doing some artwork. Oh, it's 1 o'clock. They're having a nap, you know, that kind of thing. The parents can check in. Tragically, Ramia wasn't checked in to the daycare centre for the entire day. Perhaps somebody or even the app itself can have that as an alert. You know, perhaps these apps can improve. Hey, daycare centre manager, you've said that one of your children's due to come in today and they haven't been checked in. Are you sure everything's okay there? I don't know, just a suggestion. So look, I've gone through the details within the article. It is a tragedy, of course. Full condolences to the family of the 1-year-old girl, Ramia Worthington, that tragically lost her life left in a van on a hot day in Omaha, Nebraska. Her family absolutely devastated, naturally. And I just think it's important, for me at least, my opinion is, for whatever the reasons happen to be, I feel quite a bit of empathy for this guy. I think he's a good guy, and he had a job which has been masked as being a simple job, an easy job, a low-paid, low-skilled job, but ultimately there's a lot of responsibility there. I doubt he was paid enough to justify the responsibility. Am I making a bad point there? I feel that I might be making a bad point, but I might be making a good point. People need jobs. They got bills to pay, they got mouths to feed, so they take whatever job they can. He was likely doing his absolute best, and I dare say that he's a good guy doing a good job, but he made a mistake. So I'm going to be a bit hypocritical. Like I've said, I'm disturbed that the charge of child negligence resulting in death only carries a maximum of 4 years in prison. I think that's too low for a maximum sentence for child negligence resulting in death. But having said that, I don't wish for too heavy a punishment to befall Ryan Williams. If my assumptions are correct, if it turns out the guy is a drunk or a drug addict or he's got, a bad history of this and that, then okay, fine, maybe the book should be thrown at him. But as it stands, the info that I have, my feeling is he's a good man that made a mistake, and I think that society ought to, I'm going to say, give him a pass. I don't like that term. I really don't think many people should be given a pass, but I would think that he would be one of them. Perhaps ultimately because he had no malice at all. It was a mere error. Tragic error, but an error, and we are humans. We make errors. I don't have a job in which if I make an error, a child may die. I don't have that kind of job, thankfully, because if I did, God forbid that I do make a mistake that leads to a child's death, it would destroy me. Anyhow, I guess I've gone on too much of a ramble there, so I'll wrap things up at this point. If you appreciate the content, the coverage, please do like, comment, subscribe, share the video as you see fit. Again, if you disagree with me, if you're disgusted by my take on things, more than welcome to make some comments below. You can be pretty strong, but obviously, no swear words and this kind of thing. But anyhow, thanks for listening. Take care.